إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Today is Sunday, 4th of Jumada Thaniya, corresponding to September 17, 2023. Today, inshallah, we will explain the first page of Surat An-Naml, chapter 27. Okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم طاسين تلك آيات القرآن وكتاب مبين هدى وبشرى للمؤمنين الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وهم بالآخرة هم يوقنون إن الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة زينا لهم أعمالهم فهم يعمهون أولئك الذين لهم سوء العذاب وهم في الآخرة هم الأخسرون وإنك لتلقى القرآن من لدن حكيم عليم. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Tasil, these are the ayat of the Quran, and the Quran, is a book that is clear, a guide and glad tidings for the believers, those who perform the salah and give the zakah, and they believe with certainty in the hereafter. Verily, those who do not believe in the hereafter, we have made their deeds fair seeming to them, so that they wander about blindly in their falsehood. There are those for whom there will be an evil torment, and in the hereafter there will be the greatest losers. And verily you, Muhammad ﷺ, are being taught the Quran from one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the all-wise, the all-knowing. The Quran is guidance and glad tidings for the believers, a warning to the disbelievers, and it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Tasin. In the comments of Surah Al-Baqarah, we discussed the letters which appear at the beginning of some surah. We said the most correct opinion is that it's a challenge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Quraysh, who used the Arabic language to compose beautiful poetry. So Allah is telling them this Quran is also made up from the same language that you make up poetry with. So if you are claiming that this Quran is not from Allah, then use these letters to come up with a Quran like it. تلك آيات القرآن وكتاب مبين هدى وبشرى للمؤمنين. These are the ayat of the Quran, and it is a book that is clear. It is plain and evident. It's clear in its instructions, a guide and glad tidings for the believers, meaning that the Quran is guidance and good news. Is guidance and good news for the believers, and good news may be attained from the Quran for those who believe in it, who believe in the Quran, follow its teachings, and put it into practice. الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وهم بالآخرة هم يوقنون. So these believers, they have traits. It's not enough to just claim with your mouth that you believe. You have to do the deeds as proof of your belief. So the believers are those who perform the salah and give the zakah, and they believe with certainty in the hereafter. They establish obligatory prayers, pay zakah, and believe with certain faith in the hereafter. They also believe in the resurrection after death. They believe in the reward and punishment for all deeds that they do, whether these deeds are good or bad. And paradise and hell are going to be the abode for the people according to their deeds. Those that do good deeds, their abode will be paradise. Those that do evil will go to hellfire or seek refuge with Allah from the hellfire. And this is like the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying about the Quran, that the Quran is for those who believe, a guide and a healing. So the Quran, for those who believe, is a guide and a healing. But as for those who disbelieve, there is heaviness, deafness in their ears. They cannot hear the message of truth in the Quran. قُلْ هُوَ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا هُدًى وَشِفَاءٌ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ فِي آذَانِهِمْ وَقْرٌ وَهُوَ عَلَيْهِمْ عَمًى. Also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Muhammad ﷺ that he sent him the Quran so that you, O Muhammad ﷺ, may give glad tidings to those who have taqwa, and warn with it the lud, those that are most quarrelsome people that argue against the truth. And taqwa, the best way to describe it is the way one of the Salaf, one of the Tabi'een, described it. He said that to have taqwa is to obey Allah under a guidance and light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, you don't do something that you think is good, then it's good. No, it has to be stated by Allah that it is good. So people that do bid'ah, they don't fall in this category. They are not doing the good deeds based on the light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guidance. So taqwa is to do good deed, following the light and the guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hoping for Allah's reward for doing this good deed, and to leave evil deeds, those deeds that Allah told you not to do, under guidance and light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fearing Allah's punishment. So again, it's always under light, guidance and light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do we get the guidance? It is from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that explains the Quran and even abrogates it in some places, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who sent Muhammad ﷺ, and he's the one who's given him instructions. لِتُبَشِّرَ بِهِ الْمُتَّقِينَ وَتُنذِرَ بِهِ قَوْمًا لُدًّا. Allah says here in this surah, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ زَيَّنَّا لَهُمْ أَعْمَالَهُمْ فَهُمْ يَعْمَهُونَ. Verily those who do not believe in the hereafter, meaning those who deny that the hereafter will ever be, that will be resurrected and reward and punishment will be given to people, those that deny this and think that will never happen, we have made their deeds fair seeming to them, so that they wander about blindly. Because here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created the quality of choice in human beings and jinn beings. And He sent us messengers that showed us the true path. And obviously Allah gave us the choice to believe or to disbelieve. But of course, all these choices fall under the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, no one will be able to believe except if Allah authorizes him. And no one will be able to disbelieve except if Allah authorizes him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's in our hearts and what we need. If those that need guidance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide them. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Those that strive hard to find us, to find the true path, we will guide them to the true path that they are seeking. Also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah An-Nisa that those who oppose the messenger and the believers, the first believers are the Sahaba and those that came on their footsteps, not the innovators. So whomever disputes and argues and goes against the way of the Prophet ﷺ and the companions after the truth has been made manifest to him, Allah will put him in whichever way that person chose. So that person chose tribalism or vain desire, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will leave him in that path that he chose, and he will send him to hellfire. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَن يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولَ مِن بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِهِ جَهَنَّمَ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that those that don't believe in the hereafter, it's their choice to not believe. Therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to leave them in that path that they chose, and He's going to make fair seeming to them the path that they chose, because it's their own choice. So Allah says, we have made what they are doing seem good to them, and we have left them to continue in their misguidance, so they are lost and confused. Why? It was their choice. This is why Allah created us the free will. So we make choices, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala either approves or disapproves of the choice based on His wisdom. And that's why the hadith that says that a person may do the deeds of the people of hellfire until there's nothing between him and the hellfire except the handspan, then the book of deeds would precede him, and he would do the deeds of the people of Jannah, and he would enter Jannah. So basically, this person wanted the truth, but somehow he was not able to find the truth. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was going to guide him for his death. Also, the hadith says that another person may be doing the deeds of the person of Jannah as far as people see. You know, it's two hadith, one explains the other. Until there's nothing between him and entering Jannah except the handspan, so like just shortly before his death. And then he does the deeds of the people of the hellfire, and then he's going to enter the hellfire. So the scholar said that usually, if a person does good deeds, his final abode will be Jannah. But some people, they are not sincere for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're doing the good deeds, as we said, as far as people see. So outwardly, he's a good doer. He's doing good deeds. But inside his heart, there is something called the dasisa. There is something hidden in his heart, either disbelief or doubt in the religion or something of the like that he hid from people, but it's not hidden from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here we're back to the explanation of Ibn Kathir. This is their recompense for their disbelief in the hereafter, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَنُقَلِّبُ أَفْئِدَتَهُمْ وَأَبْصَارَهُمْ كَمَا لَمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِهِ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. And we shall turn their hearts and their eyes away from the truth, as they refuse to believe in the truth in the first time. So Allah will not guide them because they chose to disbelieve. In this surah, Allah says, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ لَهُمْ سُوءُ الْعَذَابِ وَهُمْ فِي الْآخِرَةِ هُمُ الْأَخْسَرُونَ. There are those for whom there is an evil torment in this world and the hereafter. And in the hereafter, they will be the greatest losers. Meaning no one but they, among all the people who will be gathered, will lose their souls and their wealth, and they will be thrown into the hellfire. Next, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِنَّكَ لَتُلَقَّى الْقُرْآنَ مِنْ لَدُنْ حَكِيمٍ عَلِيمٍ. And verily you are being taught the Quran from one all-wise, all-knowing. And verily you, O Muhammad, as Qatada said, لَتُلَقَّى, are being taught. That means you are receiving the revelation of the Quran from the one that's all-wise, the all-knowing. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From one who is wise in his commands and prohibitions, and who knows all things, major and minor. Whatever he, subhanahu wa ta'ala, says is the absolute truth, and his rulings are entirely fair and just, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ صِدْقًا وَعَدْلًا. And the word of your Lord has been fulfilled in truth and in justice. Next, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِأَهْلِهِ إِنِّي آنَسْتُ نَارًا سآتيكم منها بخبر أو آتيكم بشهاب قبس لعلكم تصطلون. فلما جاءها نودي أن بورك من في النار ومن حولها وسبحان الله رب العالمين. يا موسى إنه أنا الله العزيز الحكيم وألق عصاك. فلما رآها تهتز كأنها جان ولا مدبرا ولم يعقب. يا موسى لا تخف إني لا يخاف لدي المرسلون إلا من ظلم ثم بدل حسنا بعد سوء فإني غفور رحيم. وأدخل يدك في جيبك تخرج بيضاء من غير سوء في 9 آيات إلى فرعون وقومه إنهم كانوا قوما فاسقين. فلما جاءتهم آياتنا مبصرة قالوا هذا سحر مبين وجحدوا بها واستيقنتها أنفسهم ظلما وعلوا فانظر كيف كان عاقبة المفسدين. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing Muhammad alayhi salam, tell him, remember when Musa said to his household, verily, his household, that means his wife and family members, verily, I have seen a fire. I will bring you from there some information, or I will bring you a burning ember so that you may warm yourselves. So this is when they were coming back from Midian to Egypt, and they got lost in the desert, and then they saw a light emanating from Mount Tur, which is in the Sinai desert in